So before we start, I want to tell you something. I want to discuss some things that these are the videos that I am uploading through YouTube, right? Through YouTube, through our school channel, we are uploading these videos. So what you have to keep in mind that as long as you are, or as soon as you are seeing these videos, I know many of you are not subscribed to this channel. So it is your duty to share this video with your friends in your school WhatsApp group or wherever you can. Okay, so this video will reach to everyone. Okay, one more important thing, that when I will discuss this chapter, I may ask you few questions, or you also may have some few questions. In case of class, what we do in case of class, we can interact with each other very easily, right? But here it is a bit hard to interact. So what you can do is that if you have any questions, you can ask those questions in the comment section. Okay, I will go through the comment section, and when I will upload the next video, I will answer your questions. Okay, am I right? So let's start with the chapter. The chapter we are going to start now is named as, this is the second chapter in the sense of biology, that is control and coordination. First, control and coordination. This is the chapter that we are going to study today. Okay, it's not like that in one video I am going to complete this chapter. And one more thing I need to tell you, that in this chapter I will follow a different approach what you have in your book. From your book, from where they have started, I will start from a different angle. But don't worry, I will complete everything. 2 or 3 videos will come from this chapter, and in those videos I will totally complete this chapter. Okay, so let's see. Control and coordination. First, let's understand what is the meaning of control and coordination. Control means in last chapter we have talked of different life processes, right? We are living beings, we show some life processes. Through those life processes and in other cases also, we need some control. What control do we need? Like suppose I am talking, I know what to talk, in which tone I have to talk, how much louder I have to go, everything I know, and I am controlling my voice, right? This is one example. When you are growing, it's not like that your fingers of your left hand are growing fast, and these fingers on this hand they are growing slow. They are growing in the same rate. So our growth is also controlled, right? Our body temperature, if we talk about our body temperature, that is around 98.3 degree Fahrenheit, right? Or 37 degrees Celsius. That is also controlled in case of us. So these are the things that are controlled in our body. In case of plants also, look, in class 10 whatever you study now, first we will study in terms of human, and we will also study in terms of plants. So in case of plant, what type of control you get to see? Suppose there is a plant, okay, this plant is growing here. It's not like that this plant is growing here and the root is only this much. Does it happen so? No. As long as this one grows, this also grows in the same way. Why? Because if you have big plant here and very small root here, it is going to fall, right? From a blow of the wind, and the plant will fall off. So the growth of the plant, that is also controlled. When the plant will breed, means when the flower will come, from the flower, when the fruits will come, everything is controlled, right? So this is the control that we are going to see in plants and in human beings. Now what does coordination means? Coordination means coordination between our different systems. How? Like if you see, when you are going to eat, the moment you bring the food near your mouth opens, right? You place the food inside your mouth and your mouth closes. It is a very precise coordination. You do not follow it, it happens automatically, so you don't have to think of it, right? But it is a very precise coordination between our hand and mouth. What can happen if there is a little bit of change in the timing? Suppose your mouth opens late, what will happen? The food will be crushed with your face, or your mouth closes faster. What will happen? You may bite your hand. So there is a coordination in our body also, right? And these are controlled by, all these controls and coordination, they are controlled by different systems. Okay? And in this chapter we are going to study that. Okay? So I am clear about the title of the chapter, that what we are going to study here, right? Now let's see this control and coordination, how this control and coordination is done in our body. How the system works. The system works in two ways. How many ways? Two ways. The control and coordination system works in two ways. One way or one method is the electrical method. When I say electrical means I am talking about the nervous system. And another method is the chemical method. Or the chemical way to control all. Chemical method, when I am saying the chemical method, you should understand I am talking about hormones. So here I am talking about the nervous system. Here I am talking about the hormonal system or endocrine system, you can also call it. Hormonal system. Okay. Now does both of this happens in case of plants and animals both? No. Chemical controls are seen in case of plants as well as animals. Chemical controls or hormonal system is seen in case of plants as well as animals. But if you come to our nervous system, nervous system is only seen in case of animals. It is seen only in case of animals, which is animal specific. Okay? But this is seen in case of hormonal system is seen in case of plants and animals both. Right? Hormonal system, you have heard of hormones before. Probably in class 8 you have heard of hormones. Right? Now what does hormones means? We'll come to that. We'll come to the chemical system first. Look, how we will study. First we will study the hormonal system in plants. Okay. Then we will study that the plants, they show some movement. What are the movements? What type of movements? That we will see. Then we will see chemical system in animals. Okay. Then we will be done with the chemical and hormonal system. Then we will come to the nervous system. Okay. This will be our sequence of this chapter. In your book, what they have done, they have started with the nervous system, that is in animals, and then they have come to hormonal system in plants, then movement in plants, and then animals. So our sequence will be a bit different, but we will cover up everything. Okay. So let's see hormonal system in plants. What type of hormones we get to see? Okay. So we are studying plant hormones, right? Plant hormones. They are also called. Plant hormones are also called as phytohormones. They are also called as phytohormones. Whenever you hear this word phyto, you should keep in mind that the phyto word is associated with plant. So plant hormones are also called as phytohormones. Okay. Now what are the plant hormones, or what type of plant hormones we get to see? We mainly get to see two types of plant hormones. Because look, in case of human you will see many types of hormones. But Because the job of the plant is also simple. They have to stand in one position throughout their life. They don't have to move. They don't have to go for search for food. We also, I don't know about you, but me, I also sometimes think that my life was that simple also, like a plant. I have to stand in one place all along the life. Don't have to do anything. So in case of plants, as I was saying, that there are two types of hormones. There are two types of hormones. One is called as growth promoter. Growth promoter. From the name itself it is clear. This type of hormone, what they will do, what they will help in, they will help in growth. Another type of hormone is growth inhibitor. Again, from the name itself it is clear that growth inhibitor hormones, what will they do? And growth promoter hormones, what will they do? From the name itself, I guess it is clear. Now let's see what are the growth promoter hormones. What are the growth promoter hormones we have? Promoter hormones we have as auxins. This is the first one. Second, we have cytokinins. Third, we have gibberellin. Okay, these are the main three types of growth promoter. These are the three types of growth promoter hormones we have. Now, their main function is to promote growth, but except that, they also perform some specific function. We will go with the specific function one by one. Okay, all of them are promoting growth. Growth means how a plant will grow. The plant. Let me ask you something. Can you people tell me? We will comment this down in the comment box. Can you people tell me what is the difference between the growth in plants and the growth in animals? What is the difference between them? The growth in plants and growth in animals. Okay, both of them grows, but what is the difference between their growth? I have discussed this in class also sometimes. So you have to tell me what is the difference between growth in plants and growth in animals. You have to tell me it. You have to comment it down in the comment box. Okay. Now, auxins, cytokinins, and gibberellins. Common function: their growth promoter. Growth promoter means how one will grow. You can grow only by one means, that is by cell division. So all of them will help in, or all of them will promote cell division. Along with that, auxins will promote cell elongation. It will also do or also help in cell elongation. Okay. Gibberellins, what it does? It also promotes growth. It also helps in cell division. As the name itself, you can understand cytokinin. Cyto means cell, kinin means breaking, right? Means it also helps in cell division, but along with that, it also helps in secondary growth. Secondary growth means it helps to look. Plants show two types of growth. One is growth in the height, another one is growth in the width or girth. Right? So the plants have to be bit fat also and bit tall also. Right? So primary growth is done by auxin, secondary growth is done by cytokinin. Secondary growth means the plant will become thicker. Right? In class 9 we have studied about three types of meristematic tissue, right? Three types of meristematic tissue we have studied. In them we had one type of meristematic tissue which used to help in secondary growth or increase in the girth of the plant. Can you tell me the name of that meristematic tissue if you remember? Okay, so you will comment down below. Next is gibberellin. Gibberellin helps in, obviously it also helps in growth, it also helps in flowering. Okay, flowering means it helps the flower to come out. Also it helps in bud development. Okay, these are the functions of our growth promoter hormones. Primary function, all of them helps in growth. Secondary, primary function, look, if I ask what is the function of cytokine, three functions you should be able to write. First one helps in growth, second function helps in cell division, third function will be secondary growth, right? Two functions everyone will write, that it helps in growth and it promotes cell division. Two functions will be common for all of them. Okay. Third function will write from here. Okay. Third function will write from here. Am I clear about these three types of growth promoter hormones? Auxins, cytokines and gibberellins. Now, one thing I forgot to tell, that what are actually hormones? Hormones are actually what? Obviously hormones are chemicals, but what they do is they help to coordinate between different organs of the plant and animals. So they are also called as chemical messengers. Okay, they are also called chemical messengers. Hormones are also called as chemical messengers. So plant hormones, they are also called as phytohormones. Two types of plant hormones: growth promoter and growth inhibitor. Growth promoter and growth promoter, we have talked about these three types of growth promoters: auxin, cytokine and gibberellins. Right? Next is growth inhibitor. Growth inhibitor means they will not promote growth or they will stop growth. Here there are two hormones. First one is abscisic acid. You may think that this is acid, though it is acid, but this is actually a hormone. So first one is abscisic acid. Second one is ethylene. Second one is ethylene. Okay, I am removing this one because I have to write the functions now. I am removing this one. Abscisic acid, first of all, it do not promote growth, it inhibits growth. So what it does is sometimes it puts the plant into sleep. So there is no growth. Now you say, sir, plants they grow all along their year. Why they will need to stop their growth? Suppose this is winter time. Okay, suppose this is winter time. There is no rain. The groundwater level has also gone down. Okay, these are the things, these are the problems for the plant, because plant they need water to survive. Do you think it will be feasible for the plant? Do you think it will be feasible for the plant to grow at that time when there are less resources? It will be not feasible, right? So it will need to stop its growth, and that will be with the help of abscisic acid. So first of all, it inhibits growth. First function, inhibits growth. Secondly, we have talked of stomata. Stomata we have talked of. When the temperature is very high, it acts as a stress hormone. It signals the plant that this is a stress situation and you should close your stomata. You should not allow any water to go out. So it helps in closure of stomata. It helps in closure of stomata. Third thing you can understand from the name, abscisic. So it will abscission. Abscission means cutting off. Cutting off what? The flower, the leaf. When they gets old, what happens? They fall off from the tree, right? That is also controlled by our acid. So falling off leaves. Falling off leaves. That is also controlled by abscisic acid. These are the main three functions of abscisic acid. Okay. Next we'll go to ethylene. Ethylene, what does ethylene do? Ethylene helps in. Let me move this. We are now talking the function of ethylene, right? This is our second growth inhibitor. Ethylene mainly helps in ripening of fruit. Yes, the fruit ripens. It mainly helps in ripening of fruit. How does it help ripening of fruit? To understand what happens when a fruit ripens, the fruit becomes, two things happen, right? First of all, the fruit becomes softer and the fruit becomes sweeter, right? So it turns acid. Acid is souring taste, right? It turns acid into sugar, so the fruit will become sweeter, and it also breaks cell wall. So if the cell walls are broken, you know that having cell wall is a characteristic feature of plant cells, right? If cell walls are broken, the fruit will be softer also, right? These are the two things that abscisic acid do, and by doing these two things, they help in ripening of fruit. Next is what? Next is they causes aging of the plant. Okay, they causes aging. Aging of whom? Aging of the plant. So these are the functions of ethylene. So we have come across two types of plant hormones: growth promoters, growth inhibitors. Right? In growth promoters, we are talking about three types of hormones. In growth inhibitors, we are also talking about two types of hormones. And one more thing, very important thing for ethylene, that ethylene is the only very important gaseous plant hormone. Only gaseous plant hormone. Okay? This is very important. Ethylene is the only gaseous plant hormone. Okay, you have to keep this in mind. Which hormone is the only gaseous plant hormone? Ethylene. Okay, ethylene is the only gaseous plant hormone. Okay, am I clear? So, after this, what we will do? After this, we will come to the movement of the plant. We will come to the movement of the plant. Now we are going to talk of movement in plants. Okay, these are the hormones that we have studied in plants. Next is movement in plants. Okay, let's see what type of movements we get to see in plants. You will see some plants, they do not move. We have not ever seen a plant moving. Do plants really move? Let's see. Plants really move or not. Okay. Now there is a basic difference between the movement of plant and the movement that we show. What is the difference? In case of us, suppose this is me. If I have to go to place A to place B, what I can do? I can just walk along and I can move from place A to place B, right? That's what I can do. But plants, their roots are fixed to the ground, right? The roots are fixed to the ground, so they cannot move from place A to place B like me. So what will they do? Suppose if I was plant, I need to reach to suppose this is a thing which we have in place B. So if I need to reach here, what I will do? If I am a plant, I cannot go from here. I am fixed with the ground. What I can do? I will grow my hand direction and I will take it. But obviously I do not do so because I can move from place A to place B. So if I want to go to there, I can go there, I can come here, right? But the plants, they cannot do that. So if they have to move towards that, they have to grow in that direction. They have to grow in that direction, right? So plants show mainly two types of movement. Okay, what we are discussing movement in plants. Okay, and as I have said, the plants show two types of movement. Two types of movements the plants show. One is called as tropic movement. One is called as tropic movement. Tropic movement means it is the movement that is dependent on growth. So growth will take place here. Okay? Growth will take place here. The plant will move with the help of growth. Means plant will grow in a certain direction. Next is what? Just like after direction. So this movement is directional. Directional to the stimulus. Now in this chapter, many times we will hear this word, stimulus. You need to understand what the stimulus means, right? Stimulus means nothing but change in environment. Okay? Stimulus means change in environment. Suppose you are touching a fire. You're touching fire means you're going to touch something hot, means what? Temperature is high there, right? So that is a change in the environment. Suppose there is no water in the soil, but in a certain region there is water. So that is also change in environment. So those we are calling as stimulus. Okay? Light. Suppose light is also stimulus. So stimulus is nothing but changing environment. So tropic movement is dependent on growth and it is directional to the stimulus or in the direction of stimulus. Next is what? Next is tropic movement is also slow. Tropic movement is also slow. Except tropic movement, what movement we will to see? That is nastic movement. Nastic movement is also called as non-directional. Okay, it is also called as non-directional. And it is non-directional. Nastic movement, a very good example of nastic movement is the leaf of mimosa plant or Mimosa pudica plant, that is Chui plant in Hindi, also called as touch me not plant in English. What happens when you touch the leaf, the roots, are they growing? No, they are not growing, right? Is it directional? No, is it not? This is not directional. So, nastic movement is that kind of movement which is non-directional. So, example is Mimosa pudica. So, what points you can write? That this is non-directional, or first point we will write similar to that. It is dependent on growth. It is not dependent on growth. This is not dependent on growth. First point. Second point. This was directional. This is non-directional. I already told. Non-directional. What more? This was very slow, but this is so slow that you cannot even notice the plant is growing, right? But comparatively, this is faster. Okay, so this is faster, non-directional, non-dependent on growth. This is dependent on growth, direction and slope. So if you see that we have already prepared 3 points, right? 3 points. So from these 3 points you can easily write down the differences between tropic movement and nastic movement. Okay? Tropic movement and nastic movement. I don't know you have seen, okay, example of nastic movement, tropic movement, we are coming into that in details we will discuss. Example of nastic movement is sine mimosa plant. Okay? That is also touching plant. What happens is leaf groups like this. Now if I ask you, can you give me another example? Can you give me another example other than mimosa plant of nastic movement where the movement occurs because of touch? The movement occurs because of touch. Can you give me another example of that? Let's see, I put an animation here. Let's see you can recognize the plant or not. Okay? So, Mimosa pudica obviously shows nastic movement and it is also called as thigmonastic. If they ask, give me an example of thigmonastic. Thigmo means touch. Okay? Because Mimosa pudica plant responses to the touch, that is called as thigmonastic movement. Now we are coming to tropic movement. Now we are coming to what? Into tropic movement. Okay, nastic movement, non-directional movement, fast, not dependent on growth. We have discussed. Examples we have also seen. One example I have given to you. Another example we have to tell you. Okay. Now tropic movement. Tropic movement. We are saying tropic movement is directional movement, or it is in direction of a stimulus, right? In direction of a stimulus. Let's see what can be the stimulus. That stimulus can be light. The stimulus can be light. The stimulus can be water. The stimulus can be gravity. The stimulus can be touch. The stimulus can be chemical. Okay? And based on what is the stimulus, we are giving tropic movement different names. We are giving tropic movement different names. Suppose if the stimulus is light, we will call it as phototropism. Photo means light, we know, right? From there we have come to the word photosynthesis. So photo means light, so we will call it as phototropism. When the stimulus is light. Example of phototropism. In your book you have seen that picture that they have kept a plant inside a room, right? And the plant is growing towards the direction of the light. I will give you a animation here, so you can see phototropism. So the stimulus is light. Okay. One more thing, that is water. When the stimulus is water, we are calling it as hydrotropism. Okay. If stimulus is water, we will call it hydrotropism. If it is gravity, we will call it geotropism. While you get to see hydrotropism, roots they grow towards water, right? Towards water, so they grow because the plants obviously they need water for photosynthesis, right? And from the roots they get the water. So roots they grow towards the water. So that is hydrotropism. Suppose this is soil and here we have the water, and if this is the root, so the root will start growing in the direction of the water. Right? So that is called as hydrotropism. what is geotropism? What is geotropism? Geotropism is nothing but, suppose, let me give you an example. Suppose this is a sea, okay, and suppose this is a small leaf and a bird coming out on the sea. And this is the root that is coming out from the sea. Okay. Suppose if in this situation, later on it will going to give rise to a tree, which will look something like this, right? This will be the root. This will be the leaf, right? Do you think if you reverse this, if you flip this seed, do you think the plant that will grow like this? This will be the leaf and that will be the root. Root will above the ground and leaf will be under the ground. That will not happen, right? So, geotropism means the root will always grow in the direction of gravity, okay? And the stem will always grow in the opposite direction of the gravity, okay? So, from here, I can come to one conclusion that tropism can be of, or tropic movement can be of two types: positive and negative. Positive and negative. If the leaf is going off, or the any part of the plant is growing towards the direction of the stimulus, like the root is growing towards gravity, that will be called as positive geotropism, okay? And if it is growing in the opposite direction of the stimulus, like the stem, that will be called as negative geotropism, okay? If it is in the direction of the stimulus, positive tropism; opposite direction, negative tropism, okay? Touch, we will call it as thigmotropism. Thigmotropism is seen in case of tendrils of the plant. Tendrils, what they do, they first start growing, and when they get a support, they start coiling around that support, around that touch sensation or the touch stimulation. That is thigmotropism. It's seen in case of plants that have tendrils, like your cucurbita, that is summer squash, like you have a money plant. All of them, they have tendrils, right? They show thigmotropism. I will show one animation of thigmotropism here also. Okay. Next is chemical. For now, you just keep in mind it is seen in case of pollen tube. How it happens in case of pollen tube, we will see in the next chapter when we will study fertilization. Okay, we will study in the next chapter. So these are the different types of tropic movement. Okay, when it is in the direction of something, we call it positive tropism. Against that stimulus, negative tropism. Okay. Hydrotropism, where we have hydrotropism, obviously the root will grow towards the water, that is positive hydrotropism. Sometimes also root grows against the water, that is in case of mangroves. You will see if there is mangrove tree in Sundarban, you will get to see this, that the roots are coming out from the water like this, because they are submerged in the water now. They are submerged in the water, and the roots, they also need oxygen, so they will grow against the water. That is called as negative hydrotropism, and it is seen in case of mangroves. It is seen in mangroves. Okay, and these type of roots are called as pneumatophores. This type of roots are called as pneumatophores. Okay, I think I am clear about today's topic, that is plant movement and also the plant movement. Any question you have, feel free to ask in the comment section. I will read out the comments, and in next video I will discuss your questions as well. Okay, bye.